Thank you very much, Dr. Ghaly. It was very interesting and very informative. So now we are coming to our questions and answers session part. And please, one more notification to our participants. If you are not speaking, keep yourself mute, because we might have some problems, some noise. And if you have any questions, please let me know either through the chat. We have this down our window, or raise your hand. And I would like to use the privilege of being a moderator of our session and ask the first question. Medicine and science is developing very quickly nowadays. And theology, that's the realm which tends to stick to tradition and change opinions very slowly. So nowadays, in this particular field of biomedical ethics, how things are going on? Who is, let's say, chasing whom? Or this cooperation is going more or less smoothly now?
Yes, of course, the question of theology and science is now in the forefront, at the very forefront. We have very well-known, internationally renowned magazines like Science and Nature, which open now their magazines for commentaries and opinions, which take into consideration these theological and ethical questions. Because it seems clear that scientific projects is not the domain of labs only now. What's happening in the labs affects the life of the people outside, and we know now, as proven and demonstrated by very high level of scientific research, that people not only care about their health, but also about their values. So they want to make benefits of the scientific advancements, but they don't want to sacrifice their values. So they want to find a kind of compromise between. So the idea that science can go alone without ethics now, I think, is an outdated idea, and it cannot happen. And it is not happening. So at any university, recognized university now, or scientific research or scientific institute worldwide, if you want to do any project, you have to go through an IRB, International Review Board, Ethics Committee. If you don't get the approval, you will not do the research. It's as simple as this. But on the other hand, scientific advancements question, if not directly challenge, our long-standing perception of many ideas which we thought they are static and unchangeable. Like when do we become humans? When does this happen? In the past, this question was not as serious as it is now, because the options were not as many as we have now. Also, when does our personhood, when do our human lives come to an end, is also extremely difficult to determine. Why? Because the options are much more than before. We know before, most of the time, this happens suddenly. As we say in Arabic, al-mawtu faj'ah. We die because we die. But now we know that this is a process, is not a moment. So recent statistics speak about in developed countries, people can, like 70 or 80% of the people, the dying process takes like a year or more. So throughout this year, you have options which were not available to the people before you. So you need to respond to these questions, which is also a big challenge for theology and for ethics in general. So what's happening now is that there is a collaboration between scientists and ethicists worldwide, not only in the Islamic tradition, because it is for the benefit of everybody. The ethicist can, by this collaboration, the ethicist can provide something with relevance to the people he or she is speaking to. And the scientist can provide something to the society without getting into troubles with this society. So the scientist will not appear as someone who is taking an assault on the values of the people, even if this happened unintentionally. So I see now the relationship between science and theology or technology and ethics as a kind of collaboration, not that one is chasing the other or one is trying to take dominance over the other, because both have serious challenges and both cannot meet their challenges without a good level of collaboration.
Okay, thank you very much. So next question from Mohammed, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much, Dr. Ghaly, for your presence with us and for this very insightful presentation. Barakallahu fikum. I have just a question that is related to the stages of the baby while it is still in the uterus or in the womb. So normally the hadith of the Mas'ud, it says that it is either 40 or it can go up to 120 days, from 40 days to 120 days. So the question is that can we scientifically know how long does every stage last, which implies the stage of nutfa, the stage of alaqa, and the stage of mudgha? I think that if we have an answer from science, it could solve the enigma of this hadith.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you. As I mentioned in the last summer school, this hadith of Ibn Mas'ud, is one of my dreams is to make a serious study about this hadith, and also historically, not only in the modern time, and the spectrum of interpretations which we have throughout the ages, and what happens and how science affects these interpretations, and moving one to the forefront and pushing one to the background, and then reshuffling happens again, etc. In the modern time, we had an issue of the definition of the three stages. What does nutfa mean, and what does alaqa mean, and what does mudgha mean? We have translations in the Quran, you have translations of these terms, and you will see that the translations do differ. And the translations differ because of the specific understanding. Let's take the example of the second one, alaqa. Alaqa in Arabic, it has many different meanings. One of them, which was used in the past, that alaqa الدم العبيط أو الدم المتجمد, the accumulated blood. We know now in the modern time that embryo never takes the shape of blood. It's not in any of our stages in embryonic development that we are blood. We can be flesh, but we cannot be blood. So some interpreters in the modern time, they changed this and they said alaqa here is the hanging. It's from alaqa, from to hang. And they said alaqa here, it means that the embryo is fastened at the wall of the uterus. عندما تتعلق بجدار الرحم. Then it becomes alaqa. But when does this happen? This happens after like 7 to 12 days, 8 I think to 12 days after the beginning of pregnancy. So it's surely not after 40 days or 80 days. So the more we think that we caught it now, because we have scientific information, the more it becomes more and more elusive. So it's not only about science, but it's also about language. It's about language. What does nutfa mean in language? We need to have a list of these possibilities. What does alaqa mean in language? What mudgha means in language? And also in the Quranic usage, in the prophetic traditions, in Arabic poetry, etc. And then we see the characteristics of the first 40 days, second 40 days, 30, 40 days in embryology, in the science of embryos and embryonic developments. And then we can come to an agreement, hopefully. The more I study these texts, the more I believe it is intended, there is a divine intention behind that it will be open for different interpretations. And once you try to reduce these interpretations to one only, the other ones will escape from your hand to demand their own existence and legitimacy of their existence. But this is just something very subjective. So maybe there is one possible interpretation in the line of modern scientific developments, which we have now, or which we will have maybe in a couple of months or a couple of years, Allahu A'lam. But to the best of my knowledge now, the updated scientific knowledge we have does not solve the problem of multiple interpretations. If we can call that multiple interpretations is a problem, it depends.
Okay. Thank you. I hope Mohammed is satisfied with the answer. Yeah, it's very difficult to
I
know.
hope so. Yeah. Sometimes I have to say that I don't have clear answers because I just don't have them.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you from here. Mohammed Ghaly, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much, Dr. Ghaly, for being with us this afternoon, and alhamdulillah that I could attend. I have two questions. One, I think we spoke already about last summer school, is about our position as physician here in the West, and the fact that we are asked to contribute to abortion often. On the basis of your explanation, could I consider that the fact that I contribute as anesthesiologist in abortion before 120 days, I mean 70 weeks of amenorrhea approximately, is not problematic for me from a theological point of view, because in an ethical point of view, it's problematic. I think often here we are asked to contribute to abortion in general between the 8 and 12 weeks of amenorrhea. Could I consider, on the basis of your explanation, that this is not problematic? Another question is
shall we take them one by one?
Okay.
Is this possible?
As you like.
Okay.
Love it.
About this one, according to my explanation of the positions taken by the people in this conference, and as I said, it is representative of the landscape of opinions we have here, so it's more or less the standard opinion now. This opinion doesn't mean that every abortion is possible before breathing the soul. Of course not. As I said, it opens some doors before. Which doors are open, which doors are not, this is a big issue. This is a very big issue and complex idea. Most of the contemporary religious scholars, they open the door when they have a medical reason. As I said, malformed fetuses, as they call it, al-ajinna al-mushawwaha, health problems, health conditions of the mother, etc. But there are also, of course, the social ones, that there is a rape, for instance, that there is war in the country, whatever reason, whether it's social, political, financial, health-related, etc. These are all things that can be considered on a case-by-case basis, I would say. And this needs the involvement of the prospective parents, maybe the families, maybe physicians, muftis, etc. It's a complicated process. So the first point I want to declare here is that saying that human life starts by breathing the soul 120 days doesn't mean that everything is possible before. No, there is possibility, but which possibility? This is a big question. The other point, which is the important one here, is that your position. You are not the one who is asking for abortion. You are not one of the couple who wanted to do this. You are someone who is facilitating this in your position as a physician. So your position is different. This is a different thing. This is number one. Another thing which makes your position is different is that you are not practicing something which we can call your right, but you are practicing something which we call your duty. And in Islamic law, there is a big difference between executing rights, and executing duties. When I execute my rights, I can always abstain. When it is my right to receive zakah, I can say I don't want. When it is my right to receive nafaqah, maintenance, from my father, for instance, I can say no, and there is no problem. But abstaining, doing the duties, is something else. It's different. But what if the duties contradict with my conscience, with my religious beliefs, etc.? These are things which are usually regulated in the different professions, including the medical profession. When I was in the Netherlands, many of the physicians, specifically those with a religious background, Christian, Jewish, and Muslims, they had problems to participate in euthanasia, when we had the euthanasia law in the Netherlands. Some physicians, also again from religious background, they also say they abstain from doing abortions. So this is a possibility. I understand also from my experience in the Netherlands is that you cannot do this all the time. You cannot do this all the time because people may accept this because in written, on paper, it is your right, but it may cost you. It may cost you developments in your career. It may cost you promotion. It may cost you other extra night shifts, simply that they say, okay, you don't do this, you don't do this, so do other things, and they may be more problematic for you. These are things which we call fiqh al-muwazanat. You need to do the balancing. You need to do the balancing between these different elements. So you have one element about the duration of the pregnancy. You have one element about in which hospital you are. You have the element about in which team you are working, people who understand your position or people who do not understand your position. You have the element of the atmosphere in which we are working on. I don't think the atmosphere now is the same like the atmosphere before 9/11, for instance, or before the terroristic attacks in France or in Belgium or other European countries. All these things need to be taken into consideration, and the best one who can give the fatwa for himself in that specific situation is the person himself, not the mufti, not myself, not anybody else. But I would say these are the kinds of elements that you need to take into consideration. Also, you need to take into consideration if you said no, even if you are not in France. Imagine you are in Uganda or in another African country. You may say no to the people, and you may have the right to say no because you are the boss. You are maybe the only physician in the country, and nobody will hold you accountable. But be sure that now you are in problem of putting an end to a potential human life but maybe this will end up in losing 2 lives. That this lady will go to do abortion illegally outside the standard clinical practice. So you need to count these things and to have them in mind. Allahu A'lam.
Thank you very much.
And there is a comment from Maha, sorry for interrupting, before Brother Mohammed Ghaly wants to continue with his next question. Maha, please.
Thank you for the question, Brother Mohammed Ghaly, and thank you also for the answer, Professor Ghaly. So my comment is that I agree totally about the fact that abortion has to be treated by an approach that takes every case alone and studies the case alone. We cannot say to all women that you are allowed to abort if you have not in your pregnancy more than 40 days or 120 days. It depends on the interpretation. And I reached this conclusion after many studies where relying on some feminist claims, women in the West are told simply to go to the hospital and abort when they are pregnant, and that they have problems with their pregnancy, which implies they need money, they need some support, they need a responsible husband or partner. They need support from the government, from associations, because they were subject to rape, because there is war, because so many things can happen to a woman. So instead of having each part taking its responsibility, the only solution which is solved, which is the woman is told, is go to the hospital and abort. It's allowed. It's not a problem. So here we have, I think that, subhanAllah, this is maybe one of the reasons that we cannot know really when life starts, because really it's something that is huge, that the woman can be told that the only solution for her problem, which is not really a problem, because maybe she's happy to have this baby inside her body, that she has to kill him or to kill her. So this is just my small comment about what he just said, and well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now the second question, Mohammed Ghaly, please.
Thank you. The second question is about the position of the group of Dr. Hassan Hathout, rahimahullah, about the difference he made between the life and the soul. I would like to ask you a question about the impact of this notion, of this philosophy, for the end of the life. When we work, for example, in intensive care units, and we have patients under mechanical ventilation with artificial coma, when could we say that the soul has leave the body, and how could we make the difference between the existence of the soul and the life in this situation? Because if I have well understand the position of Dr. Hassan Hathout, he makes a difference between the existence of the soul and the life. I would like to ask you how we consider things in the other hand. I mean, in the end of life, to be able, for example, to say for this patient, for example, he is alive, but the soul, he isn't there, and I could consider him as died.
Yes.
I don't know if I have explained.
No, it's clear for me.
Thank you very much.
I think, at least I think it's clear. So the Hassan Hathout himself, he participated in the conference, and as I said, it was about beginning and end of human life. According to him, life ends by brain death. Very clear. And this was his position, the position of Mukhtar al-Mahdi. There was consensus among physicians that life ends by brain death. And the majority of the religious scholars who participated also accepted brain death. From the beginning of Islam up to the moment, the definition of this is that the soul departs the body. As long as the body, when the soul enters the body, then there is life. When the soul departs the body, there is death. The question is, how can we know this? Because the soul is metaphysical, is unseen. We cannot see this. For the beginning of human life, they based themselves on the hadith of Ibn Mas'ud, so breathing the soul 120 days or 40. By the end of human life, they based themselves on signs of this, which they call amaratul maut. And up to the 20th century, it was about cardiac death. The person does not breathe, does not move, etc. Everything is still, the organs do not work. In the modern time, they accepted brain death, including someone like Hassan Hathout. I hope I could answer the question.
Okay. Barakallahu fiqh, thank you.
So it didn't make difference for him, the issue of the difference between life and soul about end of life.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And well, following your comment which you made about duties and rights in Islam which belongs to a person, I would like to ask the question, is there any comprehensive list of situations for abortion when your right and your duty coincide, and when a woman or a couple can claim that as their right and as their duty? Like, for example, I know if there is a danger for mother's life, if the babies continue growing, then the abortion might be a duty to save her life for future generation. Or is there any something like that, such a list from Islamic perspective?
Yes. To the best of my knowledge, I didn't see a list. I didn't see a list. But if you read any modern work on like the beginning of human life, which I spoke about, the publication of this organization, or any other book which has the title Bidayat al-Hayah al-Insaniya or al-Ijhad, abortion, or whatever, you can bring up lists. But the problem is that this list will change from one book to another and from one religious scholar to another. So in the list you will find things which are possible according to this religious scholar, but according to another one it will be impossible or ethically unacceptable, and so on. And this happens because of the problems I spoke about in the lecture, because we have scientific knowledge which can be interpreted differently. We have scriptures which can be interpreted differently. This can be taken as a blessing, that you can make use of this wide scope of variety of opinions in order to accommodate specific situations. And it can be used as a problem that the person gets confused and doesn't know what to do. But I want to confirm here that this is the dominant majority of cases in Islamic law. Very few things on which you have no disagreement whatsoever, which we call ijma', consensus. And the great majority, they accommodate variety of opinions because it's based on dhann, thinking, and on probability. And when Imam Malik was asked once about this issue, he said, إِنَّ ظُنُّ إِلَّا ظَنًّا وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمُسْتَيقِنِينَ. He is quoting a Quranic verse saying that we are just doing our best. We are just doing our best. And I think you can put an end to this variety by falling into either rigidity or stopping freedom that people think about it. The key question here is that how I, as an individual person or as an individual Muslim, how can I take benefit the best from this variety and apply it to my own case. This is an individual issue.
And the issue of personal responsibility and freedom of choice as well.
Yes, it is an individual choice, sure, sure.
Okay.
There is a scope for individual choice.
Okay.
But again, I want to say that this scope is not limitless. So, as we said, after breathing the soul, there is no question. The only reason is that the life of the mother is in danger. We have to choose between two lives, that of the mother and that of the baby. Then we use that of the mother. Before breathing the soul, it is not open-ended. There must be a reason, and this reason must be valid. And but then we have disagreement about what is the valid reason. But someone who wants to do it because I'm not ready to be a father, for instance, is this a reason? Can this be an acceptable reason? No, it cannot be an acceptable reason. So I want to abort just because I don't like, because I made a mistake by having a shared child with this woman or with this man. These things cannot be considered. So there are still lines, broad lines. But within these broad lines, as I said, there is, of course, room for individual choice. Okay,
so there is a basic foundation upon which the personal choice is built on. Okay,
there are principles and broad lines, and the rest is open for individual choice. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Maham, please. Maha, next question. Yeah.
Thank you. So I have just a question about the same subject, which is abortion, because I know that when women are encouraged to abort, instead of allowing them opportunities to continue their pregnancies and be protected by different means that could enable this, there is in the parallel a motivation, which is like this. Encouragement is motivated by other reasons that are related mainly to business. And we know that the collagen that is used in cosmetic surgery today and also in products, cosmetic products, is mainly taken from the cells, from the fetuses cells, these fetuses that have been aborted, and that no mother will think about while she's leaving the hospital. I have a question about this, if you have come across any study about ethics and this practice, which is now very debated in the world of feminism. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I remember when I was writing this article, I came across a website which is called Embryo Scandal. Actually, I cannot see here anymore. I don't know if they have taken it out. But on this website, I remember we had collected cases or scandals related to abortion. One of these cases, which, if I'm not mistaken, mentioned by this website or mentioned by Hassan Hathout, I'm not sure. There were ladies who were employed by cosmetic companies, poor ladies from Asia who were given money in order to be pregnant just for a couple of days. And then they abort the embryo in order to extract the specific cells which they use for the cosmetics very, very expensive cosmetics used for Hollywood stars and this stuff, because these are the best products which can make the face very white or shining in front of the camera, something like this. I don't know how far this is accurate and this narrative is accurate, but I think it is reflecting a specific trend. It's reflecting a specific trend, using the need, the financial need of specific women in poor countries, using the vulnerability of the embryos. These embryos cannot bring you to the court, cannot sue you in front of a judge. And these women are voiceless. They just take the money, and especially if you make them pregnant just for a couple of days, then the abortion is not that very serious process. And then you make thousands or maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars and euros, etc. This is seriously, of course, a very serious ethical issue, and it goes beyond the narrow issue of abortion. It's about human dignity. These poor women. It's about vulnerability, the weak people, the weak beings. Whether these beings are, we define them as human beings, potential human beings, whatever. This is a very serious issue, for sure. And I don't think any ethicist or any reasonable person with some ethical commitment would tolerate something like this.
Okay, thank you very much. We came to the end of our appointed time. We had a very nice lecture. We had a very lively discussion, and I'm sure we still have lots of questions. And I hope that it was the first but not last meeting with Dr. Mohammed Ghaly about these really sensitive issues which touch many people's life and many ethical perspectives. So thank you very much, and may God bless you, Dr. Ghaly.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the invitation. It was a great pleasure to be with you, and I hope we will keep in touch, and I'm always
Inshallah.
more than happy to have discussion with you and to talk together, inshallah.